Hello and welcome back to the Boro Breakdown podcast with me, Jonny, Dana, and Tom. We are the Boro podcast that gives you the ins, the outs, the ups, the downs of Middlesbrough Football Club. Before we start this week, we've got a little announcement to make. We've got a special guest coming on the Boro Breakdown podcast on Wednesday, premiering on YouTube and on the podcast apps at Wednesday at 7 p.m. So make sure you subscribe to our channels so you get the notification to watch the video, but also if you want to listen on the podcast app, you absolutely can. But I just want to say that this podcast was absolutely amazing to chat to. We really enjoyed it, and when we spoke afterwards as well, it was such a nice podcast to do. And I know that we don't do many guests, and to be brutally honest, we've always kind of wanted to build this podcast with us 3/4 if you count Elliot as well, and it's also our place where we just like to share our thoughts on the Borough. But we spoke this year to say, like, yeah, you know what, maybe we should get guests on now because you guys have absolutely peppered our DMs and peppered us in the ats, and we just think, yeah, you know what, let's just do it. It was part of our roadmap anyway for like next year or two anyway, but we just decided to bring it forward. So hopefully he is the one of many. We have 2 guests tied up at the end of the season. We also have a couple pretty much thereabouts, pretty much done deals. So yeah, some more breakdown news for you then. I hope you really enjoy the podcast on Wednesday, but look out on our socials for a teaser on Sunday, but then also the announcement on Monday. So yeah, that's all done. Let's chat about the Borough instead. And you can say controversy was the word of the week, and it wasn't particularly great yesterday with the decision from Gavin Ward, but we'll come to that in a second, where Boro lost 2-1 against Swansea, leaving us 9th in the Championship, 7 points off the playoffs. But I want to start with Coventry first, have a little detour, build it up. It was a nice little win for us. Then it was Boro's 6th away win of the season, courtesy of a Grant Hall and George Saville winner. And, Boro now equal in terms of points and points for home and away now this season. So Boro at home are now 10th in the league for home and away. They've also got 27 points, 23 for away, and goals is equal, near enough equal at 20 goals at home and 21 goals away from home. So it's very, very interesting to see stats are quite similar in that front. But Grant Hall, Dana, he scored his first Borough goal on Tuesday night, and it meant a lot to him. You could quite clearly see that. But how happy have you been with Grant Hall? Do you think have you been impressed with his return since his following his injury, really?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it took him a while to get into the swing of things because obviously he got an injury early doors, and then following on from that, when he got back from that injury, he picked up another one in training. So it's been quite a difficult introduction for him at Boro, but he slotted in really, really well considering. And 14 aerial duels against Coventry, the most out of any player on the pitch, and you can't really ask for more from a defender, particularly in that game. He's been fantastic. And to be fair, the only negative that I can pick out from him in his recent games was actually yesterday, because in the build up to the penalty incident, he actually lunges in on Jamal Lowe on halfway, and then as the sort of move progresses, if he hadn't have done that, he probably would have been in the space to intercept that cutback. But that's just me nitpicking, really. You could blame Nathaniel Mendez-Lang for giving the ball away, obviously George Saville as well, but he has been solid. And to be fair, we've sort of forgotten about Grant Hall a little bit because of his injury, but he's come back and he's been absolutely fantastic.
Well, then hold your horses about Swansea. We'll come on to that in a second. So I can see the smoke coming from you already. So just keep tight for a sec. And Tom, George Saville didn't start, obviously, of course, in the middle of the week, but he came on, scored the winner, and he's now got 5 goals and 4 assists, which is now joint top for goal contributions this season. Do you think he's been a player that's massively underrated?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, firstly, what a goal it was. What an absolute screamer. There was absolutely no chance any goalkeeper was ever going to save that.
A goal of the season?
Yeah, potentially. But I think he's probably just been a kind of a victim of the changing systems. Sometimes he hasn't been as consistent up until the last couple of games where he's came back into the team. It's maybe given him something to fight for as soon as he got back in. But I think we've changed systems a couple of times in the last couple of months. I think he's probably just been a bit of a victim of that, considering we couldn't drop Marcy with the way he's been playing, or even Howson being the captain.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I feel like the fans, I know the fans are always going to have that George Saville 8 million in the back pocket, but I feel like he's been really, really good this year, and fans are slowly starting to forget that price tag now and see him for a valued member of the team. And he does bring a lot to the table. I'm quite glad that he's doing well this year. I believe he was one of our picks for players to watch this year as well at the start of the season. So it's nice to see that come through too. But all in all, I've been very, very happy with George Saville, and I think he deserves more time on the pitch for sure. But let's chat about Neymar, Tom, because he, like George Saville, has got 4 goals, 5 assists, so it's 9. They're both joint top on goal contributions. But why do you think Neil Warnock's been keeping him on the bench? Because he quite clearly brings something to the table, doesn't he?
Yeah, definitely. But I think it's like we talked about. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. Neil Warnock now has options done. So we've got Cabano, we've got Balassi. And it's been a long season with a lot of games coming thick and fast. So we can't just expect Johnson and Watmore to play every game. There does need to be some rotation. And I think the way Cabano in particular has been playing has been enough to kind of keep his place in the team. Same with Watmore, but even yesterday, kind of having Balassi there, like he's showed some glimpses of class when he's been on. So I think Johnson's been unlucky, but I still think he should deserve to be in and around the team.
Yeah, it's a strange one for him. I think for me, I think we look a lot more dangerous with him in the side. I think in an ideal world, you would probably like, I don't know, it's hard because we've got options down. It's quite difficult because you've got Tav, who's been very, very good this season. You've also got Johnson, who's high in goal contributions. You've also got Yannick Balassi, who looks very dangerous when he's on the pitch. Cabano looks good too. Menez Lang, I don't think he's ready just yet. But then also you've got Duncan Watmore too. So it's quite a balancing act, really. But then, do you think Neymar does deserve a start in this team? Because, quite frankly, he has been contributing to the goals the most.
I think he should start for the rest of the season, to be honest. Him and Cabano. Although I think it is difficult because Neil Warnock probably has too many options at the moment. He's got to try to fit, the likes of Boro down that left-hand side, Johnson down that left-hand side, then you've got the likes of Tav, Cabano, Balassi, Watmore, and then a striker. You've got to fit all those players in a team, so he definitely does have options, Don. He probably has too many options to be able to fit the likes of... Yeah, too many options, Don, to fit the likes of Neymar in there, but we do rely on him. There was a graphic that came out a couple of weeks ago where it showed teams' main creative outlets, and Marvin Johnson was our most creative outlet, so we do rely on him quite heavily. Both him and Tav, for me, are Boro's 2 creative forces. And when we do play with Marvin Johnson, I mean, on his day, he's got a very good delivery in at the box, and I think that's what we sort of need. You've got Cabano on one side being direct, bringing the pace, testing backlines, and then Marvin Johnson isn't as direct, but he definitely has that end product for the most part. So for me, I think he should start Cabano and Marvin Johnson for the rest of the season if he can. Like I mentioned, he does have a lot of options now, so it's just how he fits those in there, but I definitely think that Marvin Johnson does deserve to start.
Yeah, well, he is out of contract at the end of the season, which could be a bit of a surprise if Boro let him go. But Tom, do you think, would you actually be surprised if Boro didn't activate his 1-year extension?
Yeah, I think I would be surprised at that. I think he's earned it this season. I think you only have to look at the stats and the way he's played to see that he has. I think going forward into next season, we will probably look to add on the wings. Obviously, we've got him and Watmore. Whether or not the likes of Balassi and Mendes Lang, because they're both out of contract at the end of the season, whether or not we look to go all out and bring those in, or a couple of different options. I do still believe he needs kind of 2 players for every position. So I think Johnson deserves to be one of them next season.
Yeah. Do you think Mark Bowler's maybe came out the side maybe? Just like given the form that Bowler's been in this year, it's made things really really difficult for him to fill in at left back. And I think with the options going forward, I feel like he's just been a victim of the system, really, hasn't he? So it's a strange one. But fair play to him. I think Boro should extend it. If we can't extend it, we need some bodies in and fast because we have quite a lot of people out of contract. There's the two goalkeepers that are out of contract. Obviously, Bettinelli's on loan, but he is a free agent in the summer. Jordan Archer is also a free agent in the summer. We've got the likes of Balassi leaving. You got Mendes Lang not going to be there. You've got Fletcher, Assombalonga, Johnson. There's quite a lot going out the door again. We could be very, very thin on the ground, and that could be two pre-seasons in a row where we're very thin. So it's a bit worrying, but I think for me, I think we should extend Johnson's deal for another year. But Boro did extend a contract this week with Neil Warnock accepting the job for another year, which leaves will leave us all very horny for Warney for us right now. But guys, are you happy with Neil Warnock staying on? Are you happy one more year of Warney?
Yeah, I am. I think obviously the clarity of it is probably the best thing from fans' perspective as well, because they had the meeting on the Wednesday, I think, and then it was announced on the Thursday. So it's good that there was a quick turnover of communication from the club about the future of Neil Warnock. And I mean, he's the best man for us, really. In a period of uncertainty, I think you need somebody like Neil Warnock, and somebody that knows the game inside out, has been a part of management for 40 odd years. I think it's probably not the time now with the pandemic and whatnot to be going with risky projects. I mean, that's what we want as a long-term goal, of course. It's what I want. It's what I've always wanted. But for now, I think it's probably best that we stick with Neil Warnock and let's move forward now with him. Let him bring his players in. Let him try to carve some sort of long-term stable style of play, and let's see what we can do, because he's got the track record. We've obviously come on leaps and bounds this season from last season in terms of, I think, performances and in league position. So I'm really happy with it, yeah, and like I said, the communication of it, the clarity is really good to see.
Yeah, I echo everything that you say there, Dan. And there's a nice little fun fact that was on Sky Sports yesterday that Neil Warnock's been managing for 41 seasons and Steve Cooper is 41 years old. So it shows how much of a fine wine Neil Warnock is. He's only got better with age, and hopefully he takes us to the promised land maybe next season. Like, who knows? Who knows? But Tom, Dana mentioned it there. Boro have clarity now with Warnock staying on. Do you think that's going to allow us to kick on early now and plan for next season, given that playoffs pretty much look like pretty much dead in the water now?
Definitely, but I think it also allows the fans to plan for next season as well. I thought the timing of it was quite good in that we've announced it around the same time as we've announced the early bird season ticket drive. And I think Boro put a stat out this week that about half of the early bird season tickets have been taken up by new fans who it wasn't rolling over for. So that's great. It's people are obviously happy with what he's doing, and they're happy he's going to be here next year. They want to watch that, so that's good. But also planning transfer wise, I don't think Warnock would have stayed if he didn't have kind of certain assurances that he'd get the types of players he needs for next season. I mean, you look at kind of the jobs he's done in the past with say Cardiff and the likes, where it usually kind of takes a couple of seasons to get all the players in, but then you're making a promotion push. I think if we can do that next season, back him as much as we can. Obviously, the season ticket drive will probably help with that, with it being a source of revenue that we missed out on for the last year. But just give him the types of players that he needs to play the system that he wants to play. Carve out, as Dana said, a style of play. And then kind of really go for it. I think short term, it's what we need.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the big bonus of that is when you were saying there around players, bringing players in, and us having that clarity now that Warnock's going to be here for next season. It kind of allows us to start planning our preparations for next season already. Players who are out of contract or don't have clubs already can they can come to Middlesbrough knowing that Warnock's going to be there. Warnock knows who he can get. We can also start conversations with different players who we want in. And it's just nice to be proactive on that front, and it's something that Middlesbrough haven't really done in the past. We've been quite reactive to a lot of things, but hopefully this is a change in how we run as a club. I think a very proactive nature could be and should be the way forward for us. And you were saying it there, Tom, but Boro announced the record sales for the early birds. Obviously, half of them being new fans coming in. But Dana, do you think this is like a huge boost and a sign of fans and the club coming together now for the new season?
Oh, definitely. I mean, absence makes the heart grow fonder, isn't it, as they say? And I think with what we've had now, I think 12, well, exactly a year now since fans were last at an away game, and the last time for a lot of fans that they were last at a game. So it's been tough for a lot of people. That, you got the matches and you win, and you say, I'm never coming here again because we get beat by Barnsley or get beat by Luton, but you always come back. You always come back. You always get people that say that, but they're there for the very next game, and it's just you're enticed to Boro. That's what it is. It's just they are enticing, and it's hard to sort of fall out of love with them. Although apathy does set in sometimes, but you still have that love for the club, and I think it's really been amplified with the absence of being in the stadium. So I think it definitely is a sense of togetherness now that we need to move forward together, and out of a really difficult period, I think something special is blossoming. I hope, and I hope and pray as well that we can get back into the Riverside as soon as possible, because I miss those chips and curry, and I miss the people behind me whinging non-stop about Adam Clayton, even though he left the club last year. I just miss it, and I think a lot of people do, which is why they've signed up.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on with like with people missing it and not being able to go to games. And I appreciate everyone's been isolating really and not being able to do much, so they might have saved some cash if they've been able to keep the job. So it's like little things like that where it might have just given them like that little bit of pleasure what they want to do for next year. But it's nice, and I can't wait for all the optimism to be around. The sun's going to be shining on in August. And Warnock's in, he's made a few signings, people are excited, and then we'll get beat 2-0 off Luton. And it'll just be all back to normal. And that is what I live for. So it'd be nice to have that. But yeah, I think next year's a very, very good season for us. But I think for right now, we're going to come on to Swansea now. But in terms of what we should do for the remainder of the season, I would love to see the likes of Isaac Fletcher, Hayden Hackney, Sam Folarin, come back into the team with Conor Malley, and to come into the team and show us what they can do really and start a plan for the future. A lot's being said about how good these academy players coming through are. So let's showcase. Let's see what they've got. The playoffs are pretty much dead for me. I can't see us going. And to be honest, I'm going to put it on record. I don't want us to go up this year either, because we're not good enough, and we'd just get absolutely spanked in the Premier League anyway if we did, and we'd get spanked in the playoffs. So
And you don't want that tattoo on your ass.
well, you know what? Like I was like quite happy with the tattoo in the end. I was like, you know what? If we actually do get promoted in this season, I would happily get the tattue, because it's an unbelievable achievement. Well, I'm not going to do it next year because I know fine well we couldn't be in and around it, but I'll see how I feel. I think I was really frustrated on that podcast. So, like, just in terms of like how we were running things, and I was like, you know what? We go up, I'll get a tattoo on my ass. But this year, maybe next season, Warney has to get a tattoo on his ass. Maybe saying like, horny for Boro breakdown if they don't go up. You know what I mean? Maybe he has to do that.
That's an idea and a half.
It's just like just crosses out Sharon, just puts Boro breakdown. Oh god, it'd be funny though. It'd be funny. But he was very angry yesterday, Neil Warnock, and there's an absolute no reason. I can understand why, and we'll chat about Swansea now, because I know a lot of people have been waiting to hear our reaction on this. And Boro made 4 changes to the win at Coventry yesterday with Balassi, Watmore, and Saville and Moores coming in. I'm going to take us through the game, Dana. I'm going to start with the first half. What were your thoughts on it? Because it seemed like Balassi and Watmore rotating as that central striker. It just didn't seem to work, did it?
No, it didn't, and they were sort of splitting off into wide areas, and it meant that there was just a gaping space in the middle, which was being occupied by George Saville at times. He was acting like a replacement centre forward, which was weird to see, but no, it didn't work. we've seen a little bit of Blessy as a sort of central striker, and I don't quite think it's working at the moment. Although what I will say is when Chubratpom came on, I think we had more fortunes with it, better fortunes with it, should I say. And I think them two worked quite well together initially before Blessy was taken off. And he looked dangerous, he looked our best player in the second half. Do understand why he came off though, because he probably can't complete 90 minutes yet. Same with probably Cabano and then Mendes line as well. But yeah, it didn't work. He changed it, and I think the substitutes made an impact. But yeah, it didn't work initially.
Yeah, I just want to say about Chubratpom, I thought he was really good yesterday. I know like a lot of fans were probably... He probably went under the radar just given the decisions that was made, but I thought Chuba really brought something to the table. He gave us like a vocal point up front. He created space for the wingers to get in behind, and also made things really difficult for the Swansea defenders. So, fair play, Chuba. Keep it up, and hopefully you can keep bringing more stuff like that to the table, because we need it, to be honest, given that with Fletcher's injury and Britt's potential injury as well. So he's the only fit striker we've got, so he needs to bring something to the table. But then down to the Swansea goal. Bit of a shambles. Howson and Boro mix up, and I used deflected effort off Jed's, put Swansea ahead. Go on then. Poor goal, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. It just highlights the lack of authority, really. I mean, there's been so much clamour for Jonny Howson as captain, but I mean, I do think he shouts for it. But Howson isn't the type of captain or the type of person and player that has that authority. He said himself in an interview earlier this season that he's not the most vocal. He's quite reserved off the pitch and on the pitch at times, and I think we need a maniac, really. I think we need a shithouse.
Sam Morsy, maybe?
Yeah, I was thinking that. I think Sam Morsy...
captain last year.
Yeah, Sam Morsy's more of a subtle shithouse, I think. We need an out-and-out shithouse. We need somebody that is, got a Kevin Muscat, somebody, I think somebody that is incredibly vocal. That's what we need, and I think that moment just highlighted that we don't really have a lot of leaders, and we don't have a lot of authority, even with the player that has the captain's armband. But yeah, it was very disappointing, because I don't think that they deserved it. We were playing well at that point, we were managing the game. I thought we stifled Swansea, and it was a game that I was quite confident in because of that, and the game was panning out how I sort of wanted it to, and then we shot ourselves in the foot, and Boro are the masters of their own downfall, really. So it was a shame, but yeah, it was an incredibly poor goal to concede.
Yeah, I mean, poor was a questionable one, but yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that with Jonny Howson. It's interesting what Neil Warnock thinks a leader is, or what a captain is. I know that a captain may not be someone who's the most focal point in the dressing room. They don't have to be, really. I think with a captain, they've got I think Howson's captain because he's so consistent in his performances, and it's kind of he's setting the example for everyone else to come in. But I completely agree with you, Dan. I feel like we do need someone who will be very shithousery next season. We've got Morsy there, and Morsy's fantastic at it. We just need, I think, a bit more shithousery performers to come in and be that leader and make us a really horrible team. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I don't want us to play a long ball football, because that just I hate it. I hate that Cardiff game was the worst game I've ever watched in my life. But we just need, if we can bring those players in, make us difficult to beat, but then also have those bodies in, I think it'd be vital for us next year to really build on, but then also hopefully have that like Stoke about us, where in the Premier League under Tony Pulis, where everyone used to hate going to Stoke. Like that's kind of what I want for Boro, but less of the long ball. But you know what I mean, like a fiery place to go, and they had the place to do it. But in terms of, I've got a question here, guys, and it's from. He says, he's at Knights Lions, so he's clearly a Jonathan Woodgate fan. He says last three games we've conceded due to the schoolboy defending. Who is meant to be in charge of it, of this defending and marshalling? Tom, do you want to take that? Who should be in charge of that? Should it be the goalkeeper and Bettinelli, or should it be the captain, or should it be the centre backs? Because we're making quite a few defensive mistakes lately, aren't we?
I feel like it should be a combination. I think you always need a goalkeeper with a certain presence. I think the last time we saw kind of such a dramatic difference in that was when Jason Dale got replaced with Shea Given. You could tell straight away how much of an impact that was having on Marshall and the defence, and we suddenly started keeping clean sheets. I think as well, it's always good to have a vocal character in the back line, probably like quite a vocal centre back to organise the line. That is what I was hoping Grant Hall would be this season. Kind of a more experienced head to play alongside Dale Fry, and it is a very young back line as well with Dykesdale and Bowler either side as well. And obviously McNair, I think is mid-20s, but he's not. He's played all over. He's centre back, centre midfielder, right back, centre back. So you couldn't blame him for kind of not knowing where he's supposed to be in that back line sometimes. But yeah, I'd want someone like going back a Gareth Southgate type at centre back just to tell everyone where to be, and combine that with quite a confident goalkeeper to marshal that back line.
Yeah, so I feel like you're not a big fan of Bettinelli this season, Tom. But in terms of that, and you mentioned him earlier, like Dykesdale, that's where the controversy started yesterday, and that's where Neil Warnock pointed out in his press conference. He was fuming about Anthony Dykesdale and Manning. Does Warnock have a point there, Tom? Because was there intent to hurt Dykesdale, or do you feel like Warnock's clutching on straws a little bit?
I feel like it was probably one of those things where it's like, first 10 minutes, let them know you're there type tackle. Though I'm sure Swansea probably will have identified that Dykesdale's had injury problems recently, and they're like, oh, maybe if we can like give him quite a hard tackle and put him off, in case he gets scared of being injured again. And unless, unfortunately, they've kind of followed all the way through and actually injured him, but. I think Warnock's got a point, but I don't think it was intent to injure. I think it was more intent to put him off his game.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, but I mean, like let him know you're there early. There's one way of doing it, and then there's obviously another way of him getting injured. And at first, like I didn't really see anything of it, and in the replay, I thought, oh, they've just came together really. And then like the foul for the free kick, I thought, yeah, that's quite deliberate, to be honest. I don't think he's trying to go for the ball at all there. I think that's a clear foul, and unfortunately Dykesdale's gone off injured. And to be fair, Jed came on and I thought he was okay, and then obviously got subbed off, but we'll come on to Jed in a second. But the disallowed goal, Tom, on the bright side, it's nice to know that Mark Bowler is the new Boro Roberto Carlos, because he can absolutely fire on top bins. But what's your thoughts on the disallowed effort? Like, come on, I want to hear your thoughts on this, because it's an absolute
where to start
shambles.
with this one.
Come on,
it was an absolute shambles. Like, I don't know what sport it is the referee is actually qualified to referee, but after yesterday, I can only assume it's not football, and he's turned up to the wrong place to do his job, because he didn't have a clue. Like, if we can see that from a camera yards away in the other stand, but he's 5 yards away and couldn't see that Bolasie clearly redirected the ball. Like, he shouldn't be doing that job. And I'd say, this is the type of thing where you should demote him to Northern League, but I wouldn't even want to inflict that on them. That was an absolutely awful decision.
Yeah, it's a terrible decision, but I think with what you were saying there, Dan, a lot of fans and pundits were absolutely mystified by that decision. Bolasie just fouling Fulton was just, it's crazy, really, and surely it's the wrong decision. It was surely either a goal or a penalty for Boro, right?
Yeah, I mean, if anything, Jay Fulton kicks Bolasie. I mean, his touch is bad. Bolasie, it's a little bit heavy, but then he nips in and he exactly what Tom said, he gets the ball before him. And I mean, when it was going on in real time, I was thinking, what's he blown for? Because I thought initially when Howson is on the far side and he nips the ball past whoever was there with him, that would be called for a foul, if anything, and then, no, that was fine. And then you have, Bolasie slides in, perfect assist, really, for Bowler, and then he blows for that, and I'm thinking, well, what have you given that for? And it's absolutely baffling. I can't comprehend it. I mean, I don't know what he's seeing. It's just absolutely baffling. Bolasie wins the ball. I just can't put it into words how frustrating that is, because again, like the Jared Branthwaite incident at Blackburn, which by the way I thought was going to be the peak of the incompetent referee in this season, but somehow we found a decision yesterday that was so much worse. that would have changed the entire complexion of the game because it's 1-1. Boro were dominating at that point, and he blows it for a foul against Boro. It's just ridiculous. It honestly is. It's an absolute farce.
Yeah, I mean, farce is a nice way of putting it, but I agree with you, then. And I think if that goal stood, I think we would have went on to win the game, and
Yeah,
we
same.
actually probably would have won the game with Sam Mardy's effort in the 91st minute. He set it up on the half volley. You could have been mistaken for a crab probably yesterday, Sam Marzi, I think, because the way he was moving across the side of the pitch and breaking things up and just redistributing the ball, I thought he was absolutely superb, and we thoroughly deserved his goal. But do you think he was the best player for Boro yesterday, Tom? Do you think he deserved his man of the match?
Yeah, definitely. I think, particularly over the last few games, he's been one of our best players. I think he was at the start of the season as well, but I think everyone's had a bit of inconsistency. The whole team has, so you can't just blame him for that. But definitely over the last few games, since that change in system, he's been one of the standout players for me.
On the flip side, Dana, Jed, he came on for Dijksteel early in the first half and then was subbed off again. And we have seen that quite a few times this season, not with Middlesbrough, but in the Premier League, Callum Hudson-Odoi at Chelsea, seen it with Moise Keane at Everton last year. It's not very good for subs to get subbed off. But do you think this was tactical or based on Jed's performance yesterday?
Maybe a bit of both, but I do think it was more tactical because although Jed is an attacking player, he's an attacking fullback, whereas Nathaniel Mendez-Lang is an out-and-out winger. So I can see why Warnock made that change. He said himself he wanted to go for the win, he wanted to go for the 3 points. Of course, we probably could have got that had the referee not decided to give the victory to Swansea. But what I will say with Jed, I've seen a lot of negative comments about him, and I think a lot of them are incredibly harsh. What people are not quite acknowledging is that this is actually his first full season, as a senior player. Yeah, because last season he was brought into the team, I think around December time he made his debut, so he didn't start under Jonathan Woodgate as an option, and so this is his first full season, and the lad is 20 years old. I do feel as though sometimes fans want to build a player up as quickly as they want to tear them down, and I don't quite understand that opinion and that mentality. Of course, call out, and be critical of his errors during the game, but people writing him off generally is just a little bit unfair, in my opinion. I think we do need to gain a little bit of perspective. Like I said, his first full season, he's going to make mistakes. He's not even 15% finished article, you know what I mean? It's just a little bit unfair, I think, and of course, this season so far hasn't been as good as last season. His standards have dropped, but he's only a kid. He's going to grow. He's going to go through periods of, where it's not going well for him. It's how he adjusts. It's how he deals with it. And we spoke about this on the podcast a couple of episodes ago, that we need to be patient with these youngsters. And I just think it's wrong, in my opinion, that there are so many harsh comments about Jed. I don't agree with it at all.
Yeah, I think it's with the game now, when you see the likes of Haaland, Mbappe, Kai Havertz, Hudson-Odoi, Billy Gilmore, some really good talents coming through. And obviously, I think if you look at the England side as well, the English players that are coming through is absolutely incredible going forward. When you look at likes of Sancho, Sterling's still only 25, Rashford's still 23, 20. Yeah, Phil Foden, who, by the way, I think he's going to be probably one of the best English talents in a long, long time. It's so easy to compare them, and different players mature at different times, and obviously some are so much better than the others. Like Jed is still very young; he's 20-year-old. Tav, it took him years, 5 man, just to get to where he is now, and I think it's just like building blocks for him. I can understand criticism though, because I don't think he's been as good this year. Maybe Mrs. Manjaro is a bit too much, and that's affecting him. But you just got to be patient with him, I think. And yeah, I get that players aren't always good at times, and I understand that you can't be elite every week, because if you were elite every week, you wouldn't be playing for Middlesbrough Football Club. You'd be at the very, very top, and he's probably not that just yet. But I do believe in him, though. I think he's got all the attributes there. I think he can still be a fantastic player for us, but at this moment in time, I just don't think he's been as good. But who knows? He's still got a big contract with Boro. Maybe if we bring someone else, we've got Daniel Fisher and Dyke still there. Maybe send him out on loan next year, get him some more experience where he's going to play more regular and become a lot better. And we'll see what we do with him. But I think you're right there. The criticism can be really harsh at times, and don't get me wrong, we've been harsh. I think on the podcast at times, but I think when we look at it in the big picture and that big perspective and take the emotion out of it, you can really see the direction players going and understand that time really is perfect for players coming through the system. But in terms of, let's move on because there was one big controversy point and it's going to lead us nicely to the debate, but it's 97 minutes in. Sorry, 95 minutes in. Ball comes down the wing, layers across. George Sell puts a foot in. The referee, Gavin Ward, blows for a corner. And about 10 seconds later, it's a penalty kick, and RU puts it away and gives Swansea the points. Both, what's your thoughts on the decision?
Absolutely ridiculous. Honestly, he doesn't have a clue. The referee doesn't have a clue. He signals for a corner, he trots over forward 2 or 3 steps, and then suddenly decides to have a penalty. Now, some people are saying that he's had the shout from the linesman. He doesn't even look. He doesn't even look towards the linesman. And how the hell can he see it? It's just. Yeah. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I think he has been. He's probably saw Conor Roberts in his face screaming and decided, oh shit, I better give a penalty. You're alright, mate. I'll give it for you. I don't know how he can give such a big decision at the dying embers of a game, which will potentially throw a point away for a team that has probably deserved it, on a decision that he doesn't know. He signals for the corner. Like, I don't understand it. Plus, I don't think it's a penalty anyways. I think George Saville gets the ball, although what I will say is when you go in the box like that, you are giving the referee a decision to make. But personally, I don't think it's a penalty. You see it from a particular angle. That's, I'm obviously going to clutch onto that angle, but I don't think it's a penalty. And it was a massive sucker punch because we deserved to get something out of that game. A point was the very least that we deserved, and the referee. Like I said, I thought the Jared Branthwaite incident was going to be the worst that we see this season. We saw 2 bad decisions yesterday, and the referee just won. I thought Keith Stroud was the final boss of all referees, that he was the worst, that you wouldn't find any worse than Keith Stroud. But my God, Gavin Ward, get out of this league, get out of this profession. I can't even comprehend the decisions that he made yesterday. He doesn't have a clue. I could be a better referee than him, given his performance yesterday. It was time out, awful.
Okay, Dave, we'll come back to you in a second. Then Tom, it was a bit of a shambles of a decision, wasn't it?
I mean, it's more than a bit of a shambles. I said previously, like, I wouldn't even wish him on Northern League. I think what he needs to do is find a profession where he doesn't need to use his eyes, because he's clearly not very good at that. Like, both times, I mean, Saville clearly got the ball for me yesterday. I've yet to see a replay angle where he didn't get the ball. And both times, the disallowed goal and that, the ball clearly changes direction. Now, if that's happened, how has that happened without him even touching the ball? I mean, he had the decision right at first, given the corner, and then it was just absolute nonsense to change his mind. Like, yeah, just find a job where you don't have to use your eyes, work in the dark or something, because you're not good at refereeing.
I feel like this has gone Boro fan TV.
Work in the dark. You know what? I can understand why he's give it. I can really understand why he's give it.
Yeah, I can.
The reason why I can see it is I can see why he's done it, because the way Saville goes in, yes, he does get a foot on the ball, but also he goes. I'll be interested to see in the report that I think he's given it for like a follow through on Manning. But for me, the ball's gone there. In my perspective, like, I sound like a bit like Neil Warnock here, because I am also professional. I'm also a qualified referee. So it's yeah, I can. The referee's like, he's probably give it for the follow through coming through, but I don't think that it is a foul. The challenge is already gone. The ball's out of play when the follow through is made, so it doesn't really have an impact on anything. So you can't give a foul for something when the ball's, well, you can when it's out of play. Obviously, if someone hits someone, you can give a foul. But like, the way it's being portrayed, I think the corner was the right decision initially. And if you're not 100% in that moment, then don't give it, because that will open up a box of frogs for you later in the game. And sometimes it does balance out. Like, say if you're refereeing a game and you don't give a foul, you'll see a reaction very, very quickly from both parties. So then that opens up a nice little perspective for you to give the next couple of decisions, because you get it right 9 times out of 10. But for that one, for me, I can see why I gave it, but I don't think it's a penalty. I think it's very, very harsh. Very harsh.
I'm so sick of Andre Ayew, by the way. Can I know Andre Ayew was going to leave Swansea in the summer. He should have done, because he always scores against us, and I'm proper sick of it. He's like become the John Stead of against us. He just always scores against us, and I'm sick of it. I can't wait to see the back of him. Oh, he is a good player. Yeah, he probably should be in the Championship.
Nah, he shouldn't be. Yeah, I feel like he should probably be in a lower league Premier League team. I feel like he could be at Brighton or something, you know? Like, I feel like that could be like he's in the Premier League, but he's not going to play for like a top 6 club. But he's a good talent and fair player. Like, he's punished us yesterday, and that's it really. You can't do much about it because the game's done now, and it's frustrating. The season's probably over, and I can understand why the likes of the players and the staff all came together online and vented the frustrations. It's the commitment and the togetherness we want to see. But it is frustrating, and it's not the first time that refereeing decisions happened, and it hasn't just happened at Boro either. You can speak to a lot of fans. I've been on WhatsApp this morning with Billy from B Spot at Brentford.
Billy Eyelash.
Billy
So Billy Eyelash.
Billy Eyelash, and spoke to Ryan, obviously from the second tier, and he's of course a Derby fan. We've also spoke to quite a few people this season. It takes that chance podcast. Brady takes the chance podcast, and everyone's got a decision where like they're mystified by, and it's refereeing decisions that have really spoiled a lot of games in the Premier League this year. Not Premier League, the second tier this year. And we'll come on to the debate now because we've got a lot of comments about it. And the standard of refereeing is getting worse. And we've had a lot of comments around the standard. So I'll read some of the comments we got, and then we'll come on to the debate question. And Dave McNally says, I'm doing the next referee's course available. Reckon I could get pro level purely on arrogance alone. Joseph Josephson says, how do we deal with referees conspiring against us? That's what Dave Platinum Brand says. How badly does Gavin Ward need to go to Specsavers? Jake Viley says, how do we deal with these constant mistakes from officials? As a club, we are consecutively getting big decisions turned against us. But how do we respond to this? This isn't just us though. All clubs are getting shafted by referees. The FA needs to look at it. Cameron Heath also says, need to talk about these referees. Maybe not you and not just about the Borough, but the standard of Championship in the Premier League's utterly disgraceful. Needs to be properly addressed in the media. Otherwise, they'll keep getting away with it. But please, no VAR. And we got Finn, the message was saying should we have VAR in the EFL, and Jake Farley and the local at Congo Bongo also says, can we have VAR in the EFL? But the debate question I want to push to is how can we improve the standard in the EFL for refereeing? What can we do to help them to improve the decision making?
I think we spoke about this before, and I said I was kind of in favour of putting VAR into the AFL. I still don't think it's perfect in its current form, though. And what I would have liked to have seen VAR become is kind of a model similar to what American sports do, like American football, ice hockey. I'm sure they do something similar in cricket as well, but I couldn't tell you off the top of my head exactly how that works. Where each coach gets 2 or 3 challenges a game. If you see a decision that you think should be challenged, should be reviewed, tell the fourth official, use one of your challenges. If you get it right, you keep your challenge for later in the game and the decision's overturned. If it's wrong, your challenge is taken off you. I think that would be the most fair way of doing it. It gives the referees the backup they need from cameras around the stadium and being able to rewatch incidents again. Because as we saw yesterday, they're not very good at making up decisions on the spot. But also kind of gives managers a little less to moan about, and there's been a lot of that from a lot of different managers. I'm not just talking about Neil Warnock. if your challenge is overturned, you've got nothing to moan about at the end of the game. You still might, but it'd be lessened, I think, by having it properly reviewed.
Dana?
I just think that you've got to take them out the firing line. If they've made consecutive bad decisions, you've got to take them out the firing line and bloody hell, give them some retraining or something. It's pitiful, really. And people say that VAR's ruining football, but for me, it's not the technology, it's the people behind it, and it's the rules and the people imposing the rules. The technology has the potential to be more of a help, but it is a hindrance at the moment because the standard of officiating, as we've pointed out, it's just not good enough. And I mean, like I said, if a referee has made consecutively bad decisions, don't get them to referee the next couple of games. And I'm not sure where that happens anyway. I know that we saw last week with Lee Mason and the cock up they had with the Brighton game that he didn't take the next one. But it just seems as though they take referees out the firing line because of online abuse, and fair enough. But they need to take them out for bad decisions as well. And I don't understand why they're so mollycoddled and why they're so protected. I mean, there was security on the pitch yesterday. Like, Neil Warnock was going to spark him out or something. It just didn't make sense. Like, why do they have some sort of bubble dome over them? And why are the FA and the governing bodies so intent on trying to filter what managers say about referees? You know, if a referee's made a mistake, the manager's going to point that out, because if it's, you know, impacted the game like it did yesterday, they have a right to feel aggrieved. And I just don't get it with referees. They are so overprotected. And I completely agree with Neil Warnock when he said yesterday that it's wrong. It's completely wrong. And I mean, what I would like to see or more hear is what you see in the Australian League, of direct communication between the officials on pitch, and it's filtered through in the TV. That's what I'd like to hear, just so that we know what they're saying, what they're thinking, stuff like that. But just retrain them. I'm not sure that they know the rules. The rules change every fortnight anyway, so the rules probably don't even know what the rules are. So yeah, it's baffling and it needs to be changed.
I think the constant change of the rules is making things a lot more difficult for referees, because a lot of rules weren't changed for a considerable amount of years. I think it was from 2000, and I think it was from the year 2000 about 2010. I think there's only one or two changes really, and that was around more like offsides. But do you think the amount of change we've had this season alone, with like the handball rule, offsides, and when they put the lines in for VAR, do you think that's a bit too much? We're trying to overcomplicate something very simple.
I think so, yeah. And the handball rule changed quite recently as well, because the Josh Maja goal would have stood with the new rules. And it's a fat load of good, that, isn't it? I mean, you've got Fulham wanting to stay up, and a goal ruled out that should have been given, and you know, they changed the rules after the fact, and it's just like, oh, that's not good enough. You've got to make the decisions and make the rules and put them in place at the beginning of the season, test them in pre-season games or whatnot, and stick with them. You know, I do think that they have been overcomplicated, and it just doesn't need to be. They do change so much that, in fairness, I don't blame the referees for not knowing the rules, because they do change that much. But yeah, for me, it is a mixture of the people and the referees on the pitch and the rules themselves that are contributing to a really bad standard of refereeing, not just in this division or in the Football League as a whole, but in English football, period, like probably in the lower leagues as well. It's just not good enough, and I'm just sick of it. You know, we've been impacted by it this season, and it just shouldn't be the case, especially the first incident yesterday. I mean, it's just, you just can't comprehend that decision is made like that.
Do you think, Tom, do you think that referees should be mic'd up through the TV? And also, do you think that, well, Finn's asked us the question, do you think referees should be interviewed after the games?
Yeah, I saw a video only in the last couple of weeks. I don't know what league it was from. If it was even football, it might have been something like rugby or Australian rules football, where a referee came out after the game and had to kind of explain the decisions he made in big points of the game, and I'm in favour of that. I agree with Dana that they shouldn't be as protected as they are. They should have to come out after the game and explain the decisions. They shouldn't, have security in front of them and telling managers to get off the pitch afterwards. They should give them an actual answer rather than, having that kind of arrogance that, we've made this decision. We don't even have to explain it. Just get off the pitch. I haven't seen the being mic'd up during the game. I imagine it could work, but I couldn't kind of comment too much on that. But I did like the interview after the game I saw where the referee actually had to kind of explain the decisions he gave.
Yeah, I feel like it would give a lot of clarity and protect them. But I think whilst VAR is not going to be, probably not ready yet, I feel like that the extra official would probably work. Where we had Joyce in the Europa League and the Champions League, where you'd have like 5 or 6 officials. I feel like that could be more beneficial for the EFL at the moment. There's ways that we can potentially improve it. Maybe get ex-players in to sit down with referees and teach them more of like the dirty side of the game and things to look out for, or how we can manage the game a little better. I think for me, when I was refereeing games, it was a lot easier for me because I could understand when I was playing what decisions I could make, but then also why players are doing certain things, why certain fouls are committed. It helps you manage the game and have a much better perspective on what happens and why things happen. But then when you do make a call and it is, say, controversial, you can use your knowledge to really back up your decision and your experience of playing, to kind of say, well, I've actually made this decision because of X, Y, and Z, rather than just saying I've made this decision because it's the letter of the law. I think it's too black and white, but refereeing is also an opinionated game as well, where one referee might see something as a handball, one referee might not see it as a handball. That's where you have the inconsistencies, because it's opinionated.
And Peter Walton will come in and just agree with the referee as he usually does.
Of course, Peter Walton will, like, he's gonna. It's like a referee in union, really. You got to try and stick together because you can't single out one referee or the whole thing. But look, the standard's not good, and the reason why it's not good is because of the amount of pressure that we want things to be right. Not every decision is going to be correct, like a throw-in or a free kick. But I think it's as long as you get the big decisions right, then the little decisions don't matter. And we have to try and have a focus on referees to try and improve that standard of it. It must be. It's a hard job, a referee. Like, no doubt about it. Like, people that think that it's an easy thing to do, it's not. It is really difficult. When you're by yourself and you're doing Sunday League refereeing, when you're on your own, you've got to do all the offsides, make sure you manage it correctly. If a decision doesn't go, if like you make a bad decision, you get a lot of stick. Like, you do get a lot of it, and you've got to be really tough skinned to do it. Because if you're not, you can crumble, and some referees are crumbling at that at the moment, and they're making the wrong decision, and it's based off like players' opinions or trying to sway the referee. They just need to take a real hold of the game, and hopefully they can improve. But I think things right now in terms of how we can improve refereeing in the EFL is, can we maybe look down the extra official route to help them out? Can we use that a review system might be helpful for them? But then also maybe help ex-players, or have like, I don't know if they do sessions with like all the clubs at the start of the season. I think they do. I think without rule changes. But getting different perspectives of different people as to why things are going wrong.
Do you think down the ex-players route, Johnny, do you think it could benefit from ex-players actually going into refereeing after they retire? We see a lot of them going into like coaching and management, but we'd never see them really kind of going into refereeing afterwards. But that'd give a good amount of experience to referees, I think.
I don't think an ex-player should be the referee. I think an ex-player should be an advisor to that referee at the time. So when you are refereeing and you're doing, say, your promotion, or you're doing like every other game, because what happens is you get assessed. So when I was refereeing games, after like every 6-7 games, or like 3 or 4 times a season, I'd be assessed by someone to understand the quality of my refereeing decisions and how I would improve or how I make decisions, and they would be an advisor to that. I feel like we should in the EFL, in the Premier League, you have someone there every game, So if you have a flex footballer there, you can educate them a lot more of the dirty side of the game, which I think would be a massive improvement. But also with VAR too, like you could comfortably get an ex-player and get them to understand a decision. Is it a penalty or is it not a penalty? And I think their footballing knowledge would really be beneficial to them. In the EFL, we don't have the luxury of VAR, but that advisor role might be beneficial for them. And it's going to be a long process, unfortunately. Like I understand fans' frustration. I understand where managers come from because there's a lot of money on the line of football at the moment. If there wasn't a lot of money on the line, no one would be asked. If you want to improve it, you're going to have to take time to improve them. You're going to have to put systems in place, let those systems bed in, let them take a long period of time to actually start to see the benefit of it. And that's going to be like a 3-4 year plan. And I know fans want an instant change, and I know fans want a massive improvement on refereeing, but I just don't see that quick fix coming anytime soon, unfortunately. Like, and it's frustrating. Like, it is frustrating. I can't believe we're having a debate about like referees for like the umpteenth time this year, and like it's the first one I would like our little introduction of like the debate where we're gonna probably make topics like or get people to bring topics in. We're gonna dissect it, but the the refereeing stuff, it's just quite difficult. It is difficult. It'd be interesting, like your thoughts on like maybe the advisory role. I don't know if that'd be quite a good decision for you guys, or what you think we should do next.
I definitely agree with you that players shouldn't be, or ex-players shouldn't be referees, because you've got umpteen clubs potentially that they could have ties to, and potential biases within that. So I do agree with that. An advisory role would be good, and I also do agree with the extra official. I'm not quite sure why they got rid of that, because that was a staple in the game a couple of years ago in European competition. I don't know whether they still have it now.
I think it's because not many referees are coming through the system.
All right.
Because people, I don't think people will want a referee now because you see the amount of abuse you get. And like look, it is fun. It is fun refereeing games. Like I was always on par with coaching. Really, I really enjoyed coaching, but I was probably less stressed refereeing than I was coaching, and that's incredible, really, to say that. But it's like I think with refereeing, the amount of abuse you get on Sunday League, Saturday League, EFL, Premier League, the worst documented. Why would you want to put yourself through it? Do you know what I mean? Why would you? Why would you want Neil Warnock coming up to you after like 90 minutes and just badgering you about a decision you made in the third minute where it had no impact on the game? It's hard, but I think the level of referees coming through the system's decreasing because not many people want to do it.
Yeah, I mean,
I think there's probably increased scrutiny on it this year as well, because every game is televised pretty much. So I feel like these decisions are getting picked up a lot more and being picked up in the media a lot more, and like I say, scrutinised. Might be putting people off.
Yeah. Yeah, you're gonna say something there.
Have I forgot? I think I forgot. I can't remember.
No, it's
Wait,
fine.
what were we talking about before?
Your head's gone on it. You've just had a mind blank.
Head's in the shed. Yeah.
We're basically just like saying like on that the standard's probably decreasing because the amount of games that have been viewed, but then also probably the level of refereeing is decreasing because there's not many people coming through the system.
Yeah, I remember my point now. I mean, there is human error, of course there is. There's human error in every walk of life, but it's just cropping up so frequently, particularly this season, that you do start to think, is there some sort of conspiracy, particularly against Boro, because there's Neil Warnock and, every referee's worst nightmare coming onto the pitch, shouting and bawling at them. But, I think when it gets to a point where it isn't just the occasional human error, you've got to think, are these referees up to par? And for me, the simple answer is no at the moment. There's a whole thread that I put on Twitter. Somebody put it on Twitter and I linked to it yesterday, of all the I wouldn't say all, some of the bad decisions that have been made in the Championship this season, and that's just in one division. We've seen so many in the Premier League, and I get that there's a lot of pressure. I think I can only imagine that, but there does get to a point where it just goes over the edge of human error, and it's so consistent that it does filter into, well, are you even good enough to start with?
It's like, to come back on you, is there ever going to be a perfect referee? Probably isn't, is there really? Like
No, of
the
course
world's
not. Yeah.
best, the world's best referee is never going to exist. Like likes of Howard Webb, who was renowned to be an outstanding referee, always got bad decisions at Manchester United. Maybe because they ties Man United, but who was like the referee that was the baller who was like with the really scary eyes? Was it Collini or something? I can't remember his name.
Yeah, I think so.
Head's gone. Head's absolutely just went. Phew.
No,
It's
his name's on the forefront of my brain, but it's just not flashing up in lights
Google
at
it.
the moment.
But yeah, he
I'll
was a
Google
great
it.
referee because he controlled the games, but he got bad decisions. Of course, he did. Like he made bad decisions, but yeah, I think it's hard. I think with the amount of
Kalina.
scrutiny in the game, the amount of Kalina, that's the one.
Pierluigi
I think
Kalina.
Kalina. Yeah. Did I say
I
it
think
was
it was a
the
Kalini.
former Kalini? I think, or Colaccini, who's the fucking Newcastle centre back.
It's like a mix between Galini, the goalkeeper, and Colaccini, the defender.
Doesn't really matter. But it's like, yeah, it's like that perfect referee probably won't exist, but it's like you kind of want to make those decisions right. And I think we can only improve it, but we can never perfect it. And that's the whole process of refereeing. And it's like football is never going to be like a perfect way of playing the game either. So many different rules. Everyone's going to have an opinion. And it's a very controversial topic, but I think there is ways you can improve it to a certain standard, but you can't probably hit the ceiling of perfection because it's just impossible to hit. But thanks for that debate, guys. I enjoyed that. And I've got one more question before we move on to the Stoke breakdown. And it's just from Charlie. He says, with the playoffs now over, do you think it's best to try different players to evaluate for next season, or play what you think your best team is to make them gel more and have better momentum going into next season? So should we test new players, or should we try and find the best squad for the remainder of the season? Tom, do you want to take it?
I think try and get the best squad for the rest of the season. I think it's taken so long to actually get the squad that we actually want. We addressed certain parts in the summer, and then what we were missing in January. I think still try and play your best team, get them to gel. If you think anyone is going to stay past the end of the season, obviously include them in the team, but don't just kind of chop and change for the sake of it. What I will say is it's not over yet. I mean, it was only a week or two ago we were saying after a couple of wins, oh yeah, it could be back on now, and now it's kind of like, oh yeah, they're gone again. There's always that team that picks up momentum at the end of the season and sneaks in. So we win the next couple of games, we could be having a different conversation come the start of April. So yeah, just keep the best team for now. Let them gel, and then carry some momentum into next season. I'm assuming we won't go up, but keep that momentum going.
Yeah. Dana, would you anything to add to that, or would you agree, disagree?
No, I'd agree. I do disagree with the playoff point, though. I do think that's gone for us. Barnsley are the team with momentum, so I think it won't be our time. But yeah, I think maybe a bit of both. I would like to see a couple of the youngsters be blooded through, featuring substitute appearances or whatnot. But I do agree with Tom's point about building some momentum. I mean, some of these players are playing for contracts as well, and they're playing for their futures. Even the loan players like Cabano potentially could be back next season. So yeah, I would keep the squad or the team somewhat similar, because of late, particularly, we have had a couple of chopping and changing in personnel and system. So yeah, stick with a formation and a team as a whole, and like Tom said, hopefully it spills into next season's momentum.
So I think probably the last 6 games, I think we'll start to see some younger players come through and start playing for Boro. But let's chat about Stoke. And next Saturday, Boro have a week off, of course, and Saturday they play against Stoke City. The last game we played against Stoke, it wasn't particularly a great watch, but we'll chat about it and break it down. So I'm going to pass the mic over to you guys, and let's break down Stoke.
Yeah, so in terms of form, they're currently 10th in the Championship form table, 1 point behind us, and we've moved up drastically over the last 5 games into 7th. They've won 2 of their last 5 games. They beat Wickham 2-0 at home yesterday. Lost to Swansea 2-1 at home midweek. Another dodgy penalty there, but we won't get into that one.
It was a dodgy penalty, very dodgy.
be here for another half hour. They lost 2-1 to Brentford away before that, 2-0 to Barnsley away, and then before that beat Luton 3-0 at home. So not on the best form at the moment.
Not in the best form, Dana.
Yeah, that Wickham victory stopped her out of 3 successive defeats. In the actual league table, they sit 10th, 2 points below Boro, so they were sort of flirting with the playoffs at one point, but their 2021 has been quite bad so far. 2 wins, 1 draw, and 3 defeats. If the league started on the 1st of January, they'd actually be 21st. So they've struggled a little bit this year, and I think Tyrese Campbell has been a massive part of that struggle. I think he's on 6 goals this season. He was being fantastic for them before he got his injury. Obviously, he's been out since. Yeah, out since, and then I don't think they've quite managed to sort of replace him, although Nick Powell has done a pretty good job. He's got 11 goals this season. There is a weakness in Nick Powell, though, as we've seen. His ill discipline got sent off last time against us, so if we can push his buttons, maybe he'll get sent off again. But the fans are saying that they've been playing a few different formations this season. They've been toying between 3 and 5 at the back and a couple of different variants. And a lot of them are thinking that Michael O'Neill should play a 4-2-3-1 because it best suits the personnel that they've got. Or they should play with it and stick with it, should I say, because when Michael O'Neill came into Stoke, that was what he was playing, and he actually had a lot of fortune with that. They're also saying that Jack Clark, former Boro target, on loan from Spurs, should be starting every game. Apparently looks very bright. Just some key stats to finish off with. They've actually lost their last 3 away games, and in those 3 away games, they've conceded at least 2 goals. So there's definitely something in that for Boro to be able to hopefully take advantage. I don't know who the referee is. We'll have to see later on this week. Hopefully it's someone that will referee the game well.
How about Jonny?
I'll referee it. I'd probably enjoy that. I'm out of shape at the minute, so.
Good luck when
not a chance. Yeah, good luck. Yeah, and there's not a chance I'm going to be doing it. I'm knackered after 5 minutes running at the minute. I haven't done I've done high intensity workouts, but anything like that. I've struggled this year. But in terms of Stoke style of play, Dana, I think it might suit us, to be honest. I think it really might suit us. They're an aggressive side. They love putting crosses in the box. And they're quite similar to us, really, in a certain style of play. So when we've played those type of teams, it can either be a really dull game or can suit us to a T. And I think with the crosses, the way we defend the crosses and our performances against teams that like to cross the ball in the box have been very promising. I think Boro will probably stick with a 3 at the back, make things compact and make things really difficult for them to get the second ball in the box. And I think it's a good opportunity for Boro to try and grind out a result here. I think we can really do it. I think if we are going to do it, I think we should chop and change the way we go forward. I think the through ball is going to probably be more suited to us. When I think of Danny Bart and I think is it Suter? I can't pronounce his name.
Yeah, Suter, and then James Chester as well.
James Chester as well. They're not really blessed with pace. And I think Chuba might have a bit of a field day over there. Unless Fletcher's back as well, we might incorporate Fletcher too. But I think when you look at the team we've got Cabano and Balassi and Tav, and if you want to play what more in there, you can. But Chuba, I think it'd be a good opportunity for us to really be fluid in our build-up play, get the ball on the deck, try and get in behind, pull the defenders apart. And I think that's where we'll find success. But if we don't from there, it could very much be a Cardiff game where it's long ball after long ball and very, very boring for the neutral, which we did see at the Bet365 stadium. So it'd be an interesting game. But what's your predictions, guys? Do you think that Boro are going to grind a result out, or do you think Stoke going to win, or do you think it's going to be one of the most boring draws of all time?
I think
Tom, going to go first? Go on, Dana. Go on, Dana.
I'll let Tom go first.
I'm going to go with 2-0 to Boro. I feel like if we can play like we did yesterday, which I would argue we deserved the win yesterday, then we'll do well against most teams we have left to play this season. So 2-0.
2-0 for Tom. Dana?
Yeah, I'm going to go similar, but I think Stoke will score, so I'm going to go with 2-1.
2-1 for Dana, 2-0 for Tom. And I'm going to go 2-1 as well, Dana. I think it's going to be but I think Boro are going to grind out a result. I think we'll probably get something, but it's going to be quite a hard one, I think. I'm not going to want for the neutral.
Oh no.
It's going to be 5-5 in it. It'll be 5-5.
I hope so. That'll be fun.
It'd be nice, yeah. I can't deal with the pain anymore with watching Boro get beat at home. But hopefully that fortune can change, and that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you very much for joining me as always. I really enjoyed today's pod. It was good to vent and also just debate the refereeing and obviously like secretly announce our guest, which is coming on Wednesday. So make sure, guys, you subscribe to our channels for Wednesday at 7 p.m. YouTube's going to be live at 7 p.m. But then also on the podcast apps too. And we're going to announce the guest as well tomorrow, so please keep an eye on our socials too. And that's it. Boro lose out to a questionable refereeing decision. Neil Warnock signed a new deal. Boro's promotion charge starts in August, but there's going to be no title on the line this time. This has been the Boro Breakdown podcast, and that was all your match day chatter in a pod. Up the Boro Breakdown.